The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. Before we proceed to the co-prosecutor to put questions to the witness, the chamber would like the prosecution to advise the chamber how much more time co-prosecutors would need to put questions to this witness, and how time has already been divided among the civil party lawyers according to the allotted time. Because the time allocated to the prosecution is supposed to be divided or shared with the civil party legal lawyers as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have been discussing time allocations with our colleagues from the civil party team, and we're aware of that. We've been allocated effectively three quarters of a day, approximately, and civil party lead co-lawyers have told us that they need approximately 1 hour, and perhaps a little bit more. That can be difficult to estimate at this stage. All I can say, Mr. President, is that we had originally requested 3/4 of a day for the prosecution alone. I think this witness can testify to a number of matters. We would simply ask for a degree of flexibility, if that is at all possible. We will certainly endeavour not to exceed the time that you indicated earlier. If the chamber is able to give us some leeway, we will be most grateful. We certainly won't object to the defence being allowed a little bit of extra time. I think we've had delays already, and we'll try and get through this witness as quickly as possible. I'm just concerned that if for us to give the civil parties an hour tomorrow, it simply won't leave enough time for us to get through all the matters. But we will not exceed that time significantly. Thank you.
President, legal lawyer for the civil party, you may proceed.
Oui, Monsieur le Président, c'est...
Mr. President, this matter of sharing time is always rather complicated. We do need some time. The co-prosecutors bear the burden of proof, and they have questions to elaborate upon. We, as civil parties, have our own line of questioning and reasoning to explore. Therefore, we want to be able to not be in a position to plead for additional minutes that may or may not be used up. Once again, as far as we are concerned, at this stage of the proceedings, we would require approximately 1 hour, perhaps more, perhaps less, and it's difficult to judge when we intervene following other parties in terms of providing you an exact time frame. However, I would hope at the very least we are given 1 hour for our examination.
The President, counsels for the defense, could you advise the chamber on the time you would need, starting from counsels for Nuon Chea, Ieng Sary, and then Khieu Samphan?
Thank you, Your Honor. We certainly don't object to our colleagues being given a degree of flexibility. I think that we probably certainly won't take more than 1 hour.
President. Thank you, Council. Councils for Mr. Ieng Sari. Council Angodam. Mr. President, we can estimate that we would need 1 hour or 1 hour and a half, and that's the time we need. Council for Mr. Kil Sampon, you may proceed, says the President. Council Kong Samon. Mr. President, we need no more than 1 hour. The President, National Court Prosecutor, you may now proceed with your questioning. Thank you, Mr. President, says National Court Prosecutor, and thank you all parties who are patient and who allow me to continue putting questions to the witness. Mr. Bien Kien, I have a few more questions. Before the April 1975, as the messenger of Mr. Koi Thun, were you aware of the CPK's policy to evacuate or transfer the population from Phnom Penh? Response: I don't know. I did not know anything about the evacuation. I saw people moving from the city of Phnom Penh, but I didn't know that it was part of the evacuation plan. Question: I would like to repeat the question and seek your clarification. As Koi Thun's messenger, were you aware or had you heard whether the party had a plan to evacuate people from the city? Response: as the messenger, I had not had any role to know important plan like that. Thank you. I would like now to proceed to the 17th of April 1975, when Phnom Penh was already collapsed. How did you go to Phnom Penh? Who ordered you to go there? And who were the leaders who were coming with you? Response: I came to Phnom Penh because I was with Koi Khun. I came to Phnom Penh with Koi Khun. Question: did you know other leaders who came before you to Phnom Penh or came with you when you came to Phnom Penh at that time? Response: before Phnom Penh collapsed, I had been staying in a dong. Other people had already come to Phnom Penh, and I was the last to come, and I came with Koi Thun to stay at the location where Koi Thun would be supposed to stay at somewhere near Wat Phnom. Question. Could you describe to the chamber what Phnom Penh was like back then? Response. At the beginning, I took a bicycle from Odong to Phnom Penh. I saw people walking out of the city, and when I got to Wat Phnom, I noted that the Wat Phnom was very quiet. Thank you. I would like to ask you my final question before I hand over to my colleague, Mr. Tariq Abdul Haq, to proceed with further questions. My final question would be, who were responsible at K1? Question. Could you please repeat your response concerning who were in charge of K1? Response. Pang and Lin were the persons who were in charge of K1. But the person who was regularly in charge was Lin who was overseeing both K1 and K3. Co-prosecutor, thank you, Mr. Witness and Mr. President, and Your Honors. I have no further questions. I would like now to hand over to my colleague.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pian Kian, and thank you for coming here to testify and assist the court in finding the truth.
The President, could anyone help the witness? The President, witness, can you hear the co-prosecutor now? The President, Mr. Co-prosecutor, you may now proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President, and once again, Mr. Pian Kian, thank you for coming to testify here and to assist the court. I would like to return very briefly to the period that you've discussed with my colleague before 1975. You said to us you joined the revolution in 1966. At that time, did you become a member of the Communist Party?
No. Response. No, I didn't. I had no role, no function in the party. I was an ordinary person.
Thank you. And did you, at this stage or later on, become a member of the of an organization called the Revolutionary Youth, or rather Revolutionary Youth League.
Response. Before 1975, I was introduced to the Youth League. I cannot recall the exact date when I joined the league.
Thank you very much. You've told the court that you were a messenger for Koi Tun, or Koi Kun, as you describe him. Did you start working with him in 1966, or was that a little bit later?
Response. Koi Kun had an alias called Tuch. He was not Koi Tun. He was indeed Koi Kun. I lived with him and worked with him in 1968 or 1969.
And did you stay close to him? Did you work for him from that time until 1975, or did that change?
Response. I had been living with him since 1967-68, all the way to the time when he was arrested and we were departed.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you about, you've said to us that I think in 1970 you relocated from Ratnakiri, I think you said, to Kampong Tom. Do you recall the place where you were in Kampong Tom?
No.
Response. In Kampong Thom, I was in Sandan district. I don't remember the village, perhaps Samrat village. And at Chamkale, I was in the location called Kilo 12 or 13. I don't recall it because it was a long time ago and I had never been there, or I have never been there again.
Do you know at this time in 1970, or from 1970 onwards, do you know where the office or headquarters of Tuch was?
Response. Tuch's office before 1975 was called the zone office, but I don't remember the details, as Tuch was the chief of the zone, and his wife was the chief of the sector, Madame Yun. I would stay with Koi Kun, or sometimes I stayed with his wife in Sandan and Chamkale, these two locations where I would spend some time at. I don't remember the name of the office.
Thank you. You said to us that you also understood at this time that Tuch was one of the leaders. Did you, and I think you've mentioned Pol Pot, can you try and recall whether you knew of any other leaders that were in this area?
Response. I may go back a little bit to tell you that between 1966, 67, all the way to 1970, I still recollect that there were some senior leaders, including Pol Pot, Son Sen, and Ya. There are only 3 people.
Thank you very much. And at this time, and if you can recall for us, did you know whether there was a body called the Central Committee of the party?
Response. No. As a messenger, I would move from one place to another quite often, and I did not know for sure regarding this.
Thank you. Did you, by any chance, in this period, see any meetings of any leaders or senior cadre?
Response. No, I didn't. Because these people were not all together in one place. They were in different places. That's why they used the messenger service to communicate with one another.
As far as you recall, did you deliver messages between Tuch and any other of the leaders?
Response. When I was with Tuch, I would deliver letters from Tuch to his wife when Tuch was at Chamkale as the chief of the zone, and his wife was the chief of Sector 32 in Kampong Thom. I would be moving from the two places during those years.
Thank you. Did Tuch and any of the other leaders, to the best of your knowledge, did they have any armed forces under their command?
Response. At that time, there were no actual armed forces. There were only bodyguards, about 5 to 6 people who would be seen giving protection to him.
Nevertheless, in this period, were you aware of any fighting between Khmer Rouge forces and forces of the Lon Nol regime?
Response. Yes, I knew about these fighting. However, I was not engaged. As the messenger, I was not tasked with these. Only the soldiers of the army would be engaged in the fightings.
Yes, thank you. We understand, Mr. P.N.K., and you were not a soldier. In this period, could you tell the court how long you stayed in Kampong Thom? How long you and Tuch stayed in Kampong Thom? When did you leave that area?
Response. I had been in Kampong Thom with Thuch's wife from 1972 to 1973, all the way to 1974.
And where was Tuch in this period?
Response. He was at Chamkale in his capacity as the head of the zone.
Thank you. And do you know when he left Chamkalu?
My apologies, I do not understand the question.
You said to us that in this period, if I understood correctly, 1973, 1974, Tuch stayed in Chamkalu. And my question was, do you know when he left this location?
He left Chamkale in late 1974, before the liberation of Phnom Penh.
And do you know where he went? Just wait for the microphone. I'll just repeat the question. Do you know where Tuch went when he left Chamkalu in late 74?
He came to take charge at the battlefield. to begin the attack in Phnom Penh somewhere near Udong. It was called Damna Samaj, a battlefield there.
And were you with him at this time, or were you somewhere else?
At that time I was with him until Phnom Penh was liberated.
And in that period, near Udong, as far as you recall, did Tut meet with any of the other senior leaders of the party?
Before he came to Phnom Penh battlefield, there were meetings. And after the battlefield began, the attack began, they did not meet each other again.
Do you recall who he met with?
I did not remember the names of those people, but I knew that those or senior people were discussing the attack.
And are you aware of any decisions that the leaders made at these meetings?
I did not know a lot about that. I only knew that after the meetings they decided to fight and liberate Phnom Penh.
And in this period, were you aware, you said earlier that Lon Nol soldiers, if they were captured, they would be smashed. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Were you aware of any places or any incidents where Lon Nol soldiers were smashed, to use your word?
Because they were considered enemies. So we were against them. We were life and death enemies between Khmer Rouge and the Lon Nol.
At this time, and of course you've said to us you knew that an attack on Phnom Penh was planned. Did you know, or did you discuss with any of your fellow colleagues what might happen if a victory is achieved?
At that time, it was my feeling that I was worried whether we would obtain victory or not. I was not certain yet that the revolution will gain victory.
Thank you. And let's move now forward. You said to us, I think, but please correct me if I misunderstood, that you went to Phnom Penh shortly after the liberation. Is that correct?
I arrived in Phnom Penh sometime at 5 p.m. shortly after the liberation.
Would that be on the 17th of April, the same day that the city was overrun by Khmer Rouge forces?
It was on that day. I arrived at 5 p.m. I arrived at Wat Phnom.
Thank you. Do you recall when Tuch came to Phnom Penh?
Tuch came to Phnom Penh shortly after the liberation of Phnom Penh. He arrived at approximately 2 or 3 o'clock. He came before I did. I followed him.
And as far as you know, did anyone else enter Phnom Penh with him?
I did not know or see anyone besides him. He was alone at that time.
Did any of his were any of his deputies in Phnom Penh when he arrived or shortly after he arrived?
At the time, no, there was none. As I understand, he came with his troops who accompanied him to Phnom Penh, and those troops were from 304 zone.
Do you know if any of the other or senior leaders arrived in Phnom Penh on this day or in the days following?
I was not aware of that. I did not know when other or senior people came to Phnom Penh. I only knew what I have just told you.
Thank you. What was the road that you took? You said to us you entered Phnom Penh on a bicycle. Do you remember which road you took as you entered Phnom Penh?
At the time, I came through Udong and I arrived in Kampong Speu, but I could not recall the road number. I went through Kampong Speu, and that led me to Phnom Penh. I arrived at Wat Phnom.
And you said to us earlier that you saw people leaving the city. Can you describe the people that you saw? Was it a large group of people? And how were they travelling? Were they travelling in cars or on foot or otherwise?
I saw those people. Some of them were taking vehicles, but most of them were on their foot.
And do you recall if this was a small number of people or a large number of people that you saw?
It was a large group of people. People were in a very long line.
As far as you could tell, why were these people leaving the city?
As I heard, because I was not sure, those people were evacuated out of the city because it was easier for them to cleanse the enemies.
And when you say it was easier for them to clean the enemies, who was cleaning the enemies?
The enemies were what they call the Lunal soldiers. They were influenced by the Lunal. So people from that regime was to be cleaned. Later on, people said that there must not be any CIA in Phnom Penh, rather CIA.
Do you recall, Mr. Pien Kien, who told you this? Who said to you that the city had to be cleaned of enemies, including Lon Nol soldiers?
I heard from mouth to mouth. I did not study this from any documents. I just heard of this from friends, from subordinates.
And did you see at this time or in this period Did you see any enemies or Lon Nol soldiers that were captured?
At the time, I did not see that.
Did you hear about any enemies in your discussions with other cadre? Did you hear about anyone being captured, any of these enemies that were to be cleaned?
My apologies, I do not understand the question.
That's fine, Mr. Piankian. We'll move on. What did you do on the 17th of April 75? Where did you go and what did you do after you came to Phnom Penh at 5 p.m.?
I was always with Goi Kun. I offered him food services. I cooked for him, in addition to my messenger's works. I had no role. That was my work.
And you say you were always with him. Did you see any of the other leaders or senior members of the party in this period immediately following the 17th of April?
After 1975 liberation, it was probably 2 months after the liberation. It was probably in July. After Goi Tun was arrested, Pong took me to K1.
Thank you. Just before we move on to Goi Kun's arrest, at this time, following the 17th of April, was he still the chief of Zone 304, or did he have any other responsibilities?
As far as I know, prior to that he was the chairman of Zone 304, and later on he was in charge of the Ministry of Commerce, rather, before he was arrested.
And where did he live and work before he was arrested?
As I know, he was living in Wat Phnom block. He usually traveled from Phnom Penh to Kampong Saum. One time when he came from Kampong Saum, Angka arrested him.
Were you aware at all of a location of a place called Trang Chamre in this time?
I know Trang Chumra. I lived there for a while. It was also one of the Khoi Khun's locations.
And do you know what happened? Apologies. Do you know who arrested Khoi Khun?
I did not witness the arrest of Khoi Khun. I did not know who arrested him either. After he disappeared, we heard about his arrest, that it was done by Angka.
Very well. You obviously you didn't see the arrest. You say it was ordered by Angka. Do you know who that was?
Back then, the word Angka referred to the leaders of the revolutionary Cambodia.
And did you know then who those leaders were? And if you can recall any of the names.
The leaders back then, as I recall, were brother number 1, Pol, Pol, rather. Before the liberation of Phnom Penh, I remember that he was the only leader, and I did not come to know others yet.
Did you come to know any of the leaders subsequently, after the arrest of Khoi Thun in the months and years following?
Later on in 1976, I came to know those senior leaders. They included Pol Pot, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sari, Sun Sen. I did not know Nuon Chea before that. I did not know Mr. Khieu Samphan before that. It was in 1976 did I know them.
And when you learned of their names in 1976, do I understand correctly that you understood them to be the leaders?
I did not hear clearly.
I'll repeat my question. You said to us that you came to know other senior people, including Nuon Chea, Yang Siri, Son Sen, and Kusampan, whom you didn't know before 1976. My question was, did you understand those men to be the leaders, the senior leaders?
I knew that they were so because in 1976 I stayed at K1. It was Pol Pot's place. Rather K1 and K3 were their locations. K1 was the permanent place for Pol Pot. As for K3, it was for Khieu Samphan, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sari. And as for Son Sen, he only came in once in a while. K3 was a place where they came to meet each other, and they were addressed as That means they were the leaders.
And as you recalled the situation at the time, did you and other people living and working in Phnom Penh understand these people to be the leaders?
I don't understand the question.
I do apologize. It was a confusing question. I will move on. Mr. Pien Kien, what happened after Khoi Tun was arrested, as far as you know? Where was he taken?
Response. It was on one occasion that I went to the south of Pol Pot's house. The president, we hear nothing. The president, we have problem hearing. I think there could have been some technical problem. Can we hear now? Witness, could you repeat your response? Because we haven't heard anything from you. Response. I met Mr. Khoi Kun on one occasion because Pang asked me to bring chicken to Khoi Kun when he was at the location to the south of Pol's house. He was about 3 meters from Pol's location.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive.
Rather 300 meters. The President, thank you very much, witness, and thank you very much, co-prosecutor, since it is now time for the day's adjournment. The court is now adjourned. The next session will be resumed tomorrow by 9 a.m. Mr. Witness, since the hearing on your testimony has not yet come to a conclusion, you are expected to come back tomorrow, including your duty counsel as well. So please come here again before 9 a.m., both of you, the duty counsel and Mr. Witness. Court officers is now instructed to coordinate with the WESU in order to ensure that witness is well accommodated and that he be brought to the courtroom before 9 a.m. Security personnel are now instructed to bring all the 3 accused persons to the detention facility and have them returned to the courtroom by 9 a.m. tomorrow. The court is adjourned.